Hey, a lot of work has piled up on you and you are fired. And you are promoted.
Thanks a lot.
How come can you do so much work in so little time?
It's simple. I have been using AI in my Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word workflow. That's why I'm able to pull off 10 people work single-handedly.
Can you also teach me how can I do that?
Absolutely I can.
Good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Welcome back to Be10x YouTube channel, your one-stop shop for your AI learning. Recently, Be10x channel has extended its profile and to other domains and other applications like Excel and Power BI Desktop. If you want to learn more about AI, Excel and Power BI Desktop at a nominal rate, please click the link below in the description, which allows you to learn the dataset better. This is our first video that we are creating in the domain or in an application called Excel. We already have a lot of Excel YouTube channels, probably hundreds now. What we can do differently in Be10x is we are going to show you what is really required to become proficient in Excel. There is a lot of other channels that's providing you this application, but we are going to do it a little differently. Our program is named as What Should I Learn in Excel to become a little relevant in Excel. These are the 10 topics that popped into my mind, and then I just started creating these topics, and you are about to learn in the next 10 videos how to use all these dimensions one by one. My name is Vinod. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and I'm here to help you out to learn more about how to use Excel effectively. In our What Should I Learn in Excel videos, we are about to learn the top 10 topics that is in demand in the current scenario. They are cell references, name manager, pivot table, pivot chart, slicers, a logical test in a smaller way where we can use if and an or condition with if else and nested if condition, how we can use it easily at a lower level, and then how I can use a complex if condition too. Plus we will talk about a little bit of Power Query and Power Pivot, how to combine the data set to create a more decisive pivot table to make decision making here. Without further ado, we will see how to start with the cell references in Excel. In our first video, we are about to see what should I learn in Excel. Again, I'm not creating a video for a specific version here, so I'm trying to create a video for all versions here, because I'm going to showcase the difference between what is a cell references and how I can use a spill effect option in Office 365 instead of a cell references if I'm using a latest version here. I no longer require cell references to learn, but if you are still using cell references, there are a few places where we may not use cell references. In some places we may not able to use a spill effect. In our current scenario, we are about to talk about how to use a cell references effectively and wherever we can improvise it, wherever we have an Office 365 edition of Excel with us, we can switch our workouts from a cell references to spill effect. Before I start using a cell references, let's learn about the cell references better. What is cell reference? When I go for cell references, probably we would have used this in our real world scenario, but we wouldn't have known the name for it. And many of them are not using the entire process of cell references. Probably they might use one end of it and they miss the other end. In our current video, we're going to learn all cell references variants that we have in Excel. When you go to cell references, we have 3 different type of cell references available for us, or I can classify it into 3 different types: relative, absolute and mixed cell references. When I go for relative cell reference, this is the one which we would have done for years in Excel, but we wouldn't have known the name of it. So this is the place where we learn not just how we perform an operation here, but also know what it is called as. The first logic that we are going to learn in our list is called relative cell reference. In relative cell references, we are not going to lock any or freeze any cells or a row or a column here. We're going to leave the data as it is, but when I populate the data for the other cells, it's going to pick up the right set of data for my output, and it's going to give you the right answer always. Let's see how we are going to use a relative cell reference in a small example. Probably in my subsequent video we will show, or I'll be showing you how I'm going to use that in a simple salary calculation table. When I go for relative cell reference, normally we see these data. These are data that we see years and years now. I'm going to perform the first column of calculations via the relative cell reference, the second column of calculation via the spell effect. If you're using 2016 version, probably I wish to have this in that version, but unfortunately that spell effect actually started existing from 2019 version, 2022 and Office 365. If you're using Office 365 from 2016 year, probably you might come across it, but again I still don't see a spell effect until we come to the version called 2019. When I work with a cell references, again populating a data will be a real challenge here, so we can use 3 keyboard shortcuts which allows us to populate the data better. The first keyboard shortcut will allow you to populate the data in a columnar manner. So the Control D allows you to populate data in column. And if you are working on the row front, then I will use Control R to populate the data. But if you want both the dimension to come into play, I want to populate the data in both dimension, not just column, but also in a row, then I will use the Control Enter option to do so. But there is a subtle variant here. Let me show you how I'm going to use all these dimensions one by one. The first logic is I'm going to build data for one liner here. I'm going to create a calculation for the first line. If you want to create the calculation for the entire data set, then you have to choose the column first before we start our formula. If you are happy to use the autofill option, so you can just start the formula from the first line. I'm going to give an equals, choose the 10 on C10 and then choose the 25 on D10 and give an enter. That's going to populate my answer, and you will see that my relative cell reference answers are coming in this particular pattern. Then I can just select the whole data. I need a Control D to populate the data in one shot. But if you are using Control Enter, the Control Enter won't happen after the answer comes into play. While we are using the calculation, we will populate that in an edit mode. That's the difference between a Control D and R from Control Enter. So when I normally perform a Control Enter operation or a Control Enter keyboard shortcuts here, I'm going to give an equals after selecting the range here, and then I'll go back to the 10, multiply that with the 25 here, and not just press enter, I'm going to give a Control Enter to populate it. The same logic is what we are about to do in an Office 365, but not by selecting any of this references cell or any of the populating cells, nor I'm going to use a Control D or an R or an enter here. Let's see how to do that. So I'm going to go back to the list here. I'm going to create a non-cell referential formula, or I'll call this as spell effect. I'm going to come out, give an equals, select the whole range on the quantity column, multiply that with the whole range on the rate column. At the moment I can choose the first data set alone, but I'm not sure about it. But when the calculation runs through, sometime my rates might change here, so I don't want to take a chance here. So I would like to keep the calculation running for both the line item. So you do that when you're adding a spell effect. You have selected the right set of rows and columns equally. Your vector selection should be the same height for both the quantity and the rate. When I give an enter, that's going to populate the list, and you can see the formula that populates in your spell effect will be different from the one which we saw in our relative cell reference here. This is how we can work with our data in relative cell reference. If I want to do the same logic in an absolute cell reference, then the agenda is going to change a bit. This time around I want to control the pricing completely by myself. with single cell references here. If that is the case, then what will I do? I am about to keep the data set in one single dimension, and then I'll make sure that the data point works for me properly so that I can control the data set really well. So again, I'm going to use the cell references if I'm using Office 2016 or Excel 2016. If I'm using Office 365, I can use the spell effect here. The only change that I'm going to do right now is in my 2016 version, I will use an F4 once for my absolute cell references here. So this is the keyboard shortcut that we are going to use for absolute cell reference, and I'm going to use it when I choose my rate here. I'm going to come down here, or I can choose the range of data where I want my answer to be populated, and then give an equals, select the 10, multiply that with the 25 rate of the product, and then press F4 one time. And you can see there is a referential data set coming on top for the absolute cell references, where you can see an I7 is given with a dollar in front of it. And now I want to populate this. I'll give a control enter. That's going to populate the entire data set. The formula is a little different from the one which we got in our relative cell reference. There is no lock in relative cell reference, but one part of the cell is frozen here by an absolute cell references here, which gives you a $B and a $9 in a formula. If I'm using Office 365, I don't do any of these F4 stuffs. Just give an equals, choose the entire quantity column, multiply that with the rate, and give an enter. Voila, you can see that the entire data set is pulled up. The formula is slightly different here because I chose the entire quantity, but when I multiplied that, I'm multiplying the entire quantity by with one rate column here, and my answer is coming, spilling it out nice and clearly. I don't have any issue in handling it. Before I go to the next topic, I would like to just give you a small idea about if you want to join a workshop in AI, Excel and Power BI, etc. at a very nominal place or at a very low rate, you can just click the description link below that is added in the description for us, and we will get back to you, and we will give you a better process of workshops on those topics. The next topic that we're going to go right now is called mixed cell reference. When I go to the mixed cell reference, again, I can use this in two different ways. If I'm using a spell effect, that's going to be an easy peasy job for me. But if I'm going to use that in an Office 365, if I don't have 365 here, and if I have 2016 here, pardon me, you have to work a little bit more. Again, how you choose it, what you choose first is irrelevant here, but how you choose it matter the most here. Before I take it further ado, or if I wanted to give you an explanation before I go forward, I would like to just reiterate you what is a row and what is a column. I'm going to consider the quantity as a column, and I'm going to consider the rate as the row here. When I jump back to my cell references, you can see how many F4s do I have to press to achieve it. If you want to manually type it, you can do that, but again, pressing an F4 after selecting the cell references will be an easiest way of doing it. Let's come back to the cell reference here. I'm going to go back to the data set, choose all the three columns here because I want to answer all of them in one shot. When I do that, the first cell will be an active cell, the rest of them will be a grayed out cell here. I'm going to give an equals, select the first quantity, hit the F4 3 times because I'm locking the quantity in a columnar manner, and multiply that with the rate above. I'm going to lock that by row locks by giving 2 F4s here. When I give a control enter, that's going to populate all my answers automatically, and you can see the mixed cell references comes with both the sides locked here. When I go back to my relative cell reference, you saw only one side, no side is locked, or there is no cell references added. When I come to absolute cell references, I have one of the cells is added with a absolute cell reference. When I go back to the mixed cell reference, I see my quantity and as well as my rates are locked here. If I'm going to do that in a split array function, no more selections here, just give an equals, select all your quantity, multiply that with all your rates and give an enter. Voila, you can see that it's adding all your data set automatically. So this is how we use our spilled effect optionality, and then we can use these data sets really well when we are working on it. And this is the first video that we are created in what you should or what I should learn in Excel. This is Vinod. before I sign out, please do like, comment and share my videos and subscribe the YouTube channel for us for more and more informative videos to follow. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. Happy learning.